Hello? Hello? I'm gonna figure this out one day. Anyway, hi. How's it going? Welcome to my special internet space. Um, today we get into a new book. We get into the Second Samuel. Wait, did I write the details? I feel like I did. Alright, so we get into Second Samuel, and we're in chapter. We're gonna do 1 and 2. No, 1, 2, and 3, and then go into Psalms 87. And from there, that will be the end of today's reading, devotional, and insight, and yay, yada yada. There was a devotional video. It was an overview video about what Second Samuel is. So originally, First and Second Samuel was just like one long scroll, but was divided in half. So then you have the first half of Samuel and the second half of Samuel, because I think it was decided that like 54 chapters of one book would be too much, or something like that. So it's divided in half. And in the first half of Samuel, if you review the devotional of what happens in the first half, the devotional video for what happens in the first half of Samuel, you realize that it's about the rise and fall of Saul and his time as a leader, as king. It depicts the rise of David, or at least the time that David begins to rise as Saul begins to meet his downfall. It talks. There's a song. It starts off with a song and characteristics of God, and how God always he always makes good out of evil, of humans evil. Even though human evil is, even through human evil, God is at work, or stuff like that. So there were qualities there that, God punishes the arrogant, raises the humble, and that really expresses a lot of what's happening in First Samuel, and then we kind of see the mimic of that happening, well, at the start of Samuel, and then we kind of see that happening still continuously during David's rise and fall, in the kingly position. So I'm kind of really excited. I know we're not fully we're getting at the start of David's, it's not really the start of David, but like, I guess the second half of what David really starts going through. Excuse me. And I think some more of the Psalms that he wrote, I really got to start making more and more sense, because I'm going to be able to read and see what's happening. So I'm excited to get into that. Today's devotional in 2 Samuel, David becomes God's most faithful king, but he rebels, resulting in the slow destruction of his family and kingdom. David learns of Saul's death. After the death of Saul, David returned from his victory over the Amalekites and spent 2 days in Ziklag. On the third day, a man arrived at Saul's army camp. Arrived from Saul's army camp. He had torn his clothes and put dirt on his head to show that he was in mourning. He fell to the ground before David in deep respect. "Where have you come from?" David asked. "I escaped from the Israelite camp," the man replied. "What happened?" David demanded. "Tell me how the battle went." The man replied, "Our entire army fled from the battle. Many of the men are dead, and Saul and his son Jonathan are also dead." "How do you know Saul and Jonathan are dead?" David demanded of the young man. The man answered, "I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and there was Saul leaning on his spear, with the enemy chariots and charioteers closing in on him. Then he turned and saw me. He cried out for me to come to him. 'How can I help?' I asked him. He responded, 'Who are you?' 'I am an Amalekite,' I told him. Then he begged me, 'Come over here and put me out of my misery, for I am in terrible pain and want to die.' So I killed him," the Amalekite told David, "for I knew he couldn't live. Then I took his crown and his armband, and I brought them here to you, my lord. David and his men tore their clothes in sorrow when they heard the news. They mourned and wept and fasted all day for Saul and his son Jonathan, and for the Lord's army and the nation of Israel, because they had died by the sword that day. Then David said to the young man who had brought the news, "Where are you from?" And he replied, "I am a foreigner, an Amalekite, who lives in your land." "Why were you not afraid to kill the Lord's anointed one?" David asked. Then David said to one of his men, "Kill him." So that man thrusted his sword into the Amalekite and killed him. "You have condemned yourself," David said, for you yourself confessed that you killed the Lord's anointed one." David's song for Saul and Jonathan. Then David composed a funeral song for Saul and Jonathan, and he commanded that it be taught to the people of Judah. It is known as the song of the bow, and it is recorded in the book of Jashar, or the book of the upright. I'm not really sure where that book is either. Your pride and joy, O Israel, lies dead on the hills. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen. Don't announce the news in Gath, don't proclaim it in the streets of Ashkelon, or the daughters of the Philistines will rejoice, and the pagans will laugh in triumph. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew or rain upon you, nor fruitful fields producing offerings of grain. For there the shield of the mighty hero was defiled. The shield of Saul will no longer be anointed with oil. The bow of Jonathan was powerful, and the sword of Saul did its mighty work. They shed the blood of their enemies, and they pierced the bodies of mighty heroes. How beloved and gracious were Saul and Jonathan. They were together in life and death. They were swifter than eagles, stronger than lions. O women of Israel, weep for Saul, for he dressed you in luxurious scarlet clothing and garments decorated with gold. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen in battle. Jonathan lies dead on the hills. How I weep for you, my brother Jonathan. Oh, how much I loved you, and your love for me was deep, deeper than the love of women. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen. Stripped of their weapons, they lie dead. So it's like he immediately goes into mourning. Man, I didn't want Jonathan to die. I mean, I didn't want Jonathan to die. Like I said, I love me a bromance. What? Bromance. I didn't want him to die. But I appreciate this mourning period that David is in right now, because this is his enemy. This is the person who has been chasing him, who has been seeking his blood, who has been trying to kill him, who's ran him out of his home. This is his persecutor. And yet he still can show honor to that person in their passing. David anointed king of Judah. After this, David asked the Lord, "Should I move back to one of the towns of Judah?" "Yes," the Lord replied. Then David asked, "Which town should I go to?" "To Hebron," the Lord answered. David's two wives were Ahinoam from Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel. So David and his wives and his men and their families all moved to Judah, and they settled in the villages near Hebron. Then the men of Judah came to David and anointed him king over the people of Judah. When David heard that the men of Jabesh Gilead had buried Saul, he sent them this message: May the Lord bless you for being so loyal to your master Saul and giving him a decent burial. May the Lord be loyal to you in return and reward you with his unfailing love. And I, too, will reward you for what you have done. Now that Saul is dead, I ask you to be my strong and loyal subjects like the people of Judah who had anointed me as their king. Ishbosheth proclaimed king of Israel. Who? Who was that? Who? Okay, but Abner, son of Ner, the commander of Saul's army, had already gone to Mahanaim with Saul's son Ishbosheth. There he proclaimed Ishbosheth king over Gilead, Jezreel, Ephraim, Benjamin, the land of Asherites, and all the rest of Israel. Ishbosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he became king, and he ruled from Mahanaim for 2 years. Meanwhile, the people of Judah remained loyal to David. David had Hebron his capital, and he ruled as king of Judah for 7.5 years. War between Israel and Judah. One day Abner led Ishbosheth's troops from Mahanaim to Gibeon. About the same time, Joab, son of Zeruiah, led David's troops out and met them at the pool of Gibeon. The two groups sat down there facing each other from opposite sides of the pool. Then Abner suggested to Joab, "Let us have a few of your warriors fight hand to hand here in front of us." "All right," Joab agreed. So 12 men were chosen to fight from each side. 12 men of Benjamin representing Ishbosheth, son of Saul, and 12 representing David. Each one grabbed his opponent by the hair and thrusted his sword into the other side so that all of them died. So the place of Gibeon has been known ever since as the field of swords. A fierce battle followed that day, and Abner, the men of Israel, were defeated by the forces of David. The death of Asahel. Joab, Abishai, and Asahel, the 3 sons of Zeruiah, along with among David's forces that day. Asahel could run like a gazelle and had been chasing Abner. He pursued him relentlessly, not stopping for anything. When Abner looked back and saw him coming, he called out, "Is that you, Asahel?" "Yes, it is," he replied. "Go fight someone else," Abner warned. Take on one of the younger men and strip him of his weapons," but Asahel kept right on chasing Abner. Again Abner shouted to him, "Get away from here. I don't want to kill you. How could I ever face your brother Joab again?" But Asahel refused to turn back, so Abner thrusted the butt end of his spear through Asahel's stomach, and the spear came out through his back. He stumbled to the ground and died there, and everyone who came by that spot stopped and stood still when they saw Asahel lying there. When Joab and Abishai found out what had happened, they set out after Abner. The sun was just going down as they arrived at the hill of Nergiah, along the road of the wilderness of Gibeon. Abner's troops from the tribe of Benjamin regrouped there at the top of the hill to take a stand. Abner shouted down to Joab, "Must we always be killing each other? Don't you realize that bitterness is the only result? When will you call off your men from chasing their Israelite brothers?" Then Joab said, "God only knows what would happen God only knows what would have happened if you hadn't spoken, for we have for we would have chased you all night if necessary. So Joab blew the ram's horn, and his men stopped chasing the troops of Israel. All that night Abner and his men retreated through the Jordan Valley. They crossed the Jordan River, traveling all through the morning, and didn't stop until they arrived at Mahanaim. Meanwhile, Joab and his men returned home. When Joab counted his casualties, he discovered that only 19 men were missing in addition to Asahel. But 360 of Abner's men had been killed, all from the tribe of Benjamin. Joab and his men took Asahel's body to Bethlehem and buried him there in his father's tomb. Then they traveled all night and reached Hebron at daybreak. I don't fully understand the repercussions of what happened in this chapter. David becomes king of Judah, and one of Saul's sons becomes king of the rest of Israel, which sets them on the course of like civil war between them almost. But Saul's son only rules for 2 years, and David rules Judah for 7. So what happens after whatever? Not whatever. Ishbosheth? What happens after he dies? Because clearly that's how you stop ruling as king. You die. What happened then? And this brother who's like so dead set, the Asahel, who's so dead set on chasing Abner. The reply is almost hilarious. Like, go back and fight somebody else. Like, I don't want to kill you. like, why are you chasing me? Go fight someone else. It's like, it's proof that there was a relationship there, like a bond there that they wanted to respect. How can I face your brother if I kill you? Like, there's a bond here, which is, it just kind of. And then he says it again. He's like, why are you chasing us? This is Abner. Must we always be killing each other? Don't you realize that bitterness is the only result? When will you call off your men from chasing their Israelite brothers? So it's like a lot of men from the tribe of Benjamin died that day. And we already know that the tribe of Benjamin is a smaller tribe because of some of the rebellion. Because of what happened in the book of Judges. When the Levite's concubine was raped and murdered in Benjamin. So it just goes, it's blurring the lines. Like, I don't even know who is at the wrong. No one's at the wrong, really. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a war, which seems senseless. This is the first senseless battle, and I'm like, what's happening here? Who are you fighting? You're not, like, who are you fighting and why? I don't know. Or maybe I get it, and because I get it, it hurts. Maybe I get it exactly as it is. It's the tribe of Israel. The tribes of Israel are fighting each other right now, and that's sad. Because why? And it's all for the sake of their king. It shouldn't even really be a king, because King of Kings is God, and they asked for this king, but they didn't realize what this would mean to them. And it means this. Like, this is the results of having a human king. Is that you have to fight pointless battles. Die for pointless battles. On to chapter 3. Okay. Well, that was the beginning of a long war between those who were loyal to Saul and those loyal to David. As time passed, David became stronger and stronger, while Saul's dynasty became weaker and weaker. David's sons born in Hebron. These are the sons who were born to David in Hebron. The oldest was Amnon, whose mother was Ahinoam from Jezreel. The second was Daniel, whose mother was Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel. The third was Absalom, whose mother was Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. King of Geshur. Absalom, whose mother was Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. The fourth was Adonijah, whose mother was Haggith. The fifth was Sephatai, whose mother was Abital. The sixth was Ithream, whose mother was Igla, David's wife. Igla? David's wife. Where does Igla person come from? These sons were all born to David in Hebron. Abner joins forces with David. Oh, Abner. As the war between the house of Saul and the house of David went on, Abner became a powerful leader among those loyal to Saul. One day, Ishbosheth, Saul's son, accused Abner of sleeping with one of his father's concubines, a woman named Rizpah, daughter of Aiah. Rizpah. Okay. Abner is accused of sleeping with her. Abner was furious. Am I some Judean dog to be kicking around like this? He shouted. Oh, sorry. Am I some Judean dog to be kicked around like this? He shouted. After all I have done for you, for your father Saul and his family and his friends by not handing you over to David, is this my reward? That you find fault with me about this woman? May God strike me and even kill me if I don't do everything I can to help David get what the Lord has promised him. I'm going to take Saul's kingdom and give it to David. I will establish the throne of David over Israel as well as Judah, all the way from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south. Ishbosheth didn't care. Didn't dare say another word because he was afraid of what Abner might do. Then Abner sent messengers to David saying, "Doesn't the entire land belong to you? Make a solemn pact with me and I will help turn over all of Israel to you." "All right," David replied, "but I will not negotiate with you unless you bring back my wife Michal, Saul's daughter, when you come." David then sent this message to Ishbosheth's Saul's son. "Give me back my wife Michal, for I bought her with the lives of 100 Philistines." He actually gave 200 Philistines at the time. So Ishbosheth took Michal away from her husband Palpi, son of Laish. Patil followed along behind her as far as Bahurim, weeping as he went. Then Abner told him, "Go back home." So Palti returned. He didn't really put up a fight. All right. Meanwhile, Abner had consulted with the elders of Israel. For some time now, he told them, "You have wanted to make David your king. Now is the time. For the Lord has said, I have chosen David to save my people Israel from the hands of the Philistines and from all their other enemies." Abner also spoke with the men of Benjamin. Then he went to Hebron to tell David that all the people of Israel and Benjamin had agreed to support him. When Abner and 20 of his men came to Hebron, David entertained them with a great feast. Then Abner said to David, "Let me go and call an assembly of all Israel to support my lord the king. They will make a covenant with you to make you their king, and you will rule over everything your heart desires." So David sent Abner safely on his way. See, I knew repercussions were going to follow that situation last chapter. Joab murders Abner. But just after David sent Abner away in safety, Joab and some of David's troops returned from a raid, bringing much plunder with them. When Joab arrived, he was told that Abner had just been there visiting the king and had been sent away in safety. Joab rushed to the king and demanded, "What have you done? What do you mean by letting Abner get away? You know perfectly well that he came to spy on you and find out everything you're doing." Joab then left David and sent messengers to catch up with Abner, asking him to return. They found him at the well of Sirah and brought him back, though David knew nothing about it. When Abner arrived back at Hebron, Joab took him aside at the gateway as if to speak to him privately. Then he stabbed Abner in the stomach and killed him in revenge for killing his brother Asahel. When David heard about it, he declared, "I vowed by the Lord that I and my kingdom are forever innocent of the crimes against Abner, son of Ner. Joab and his family are the guilty ones." May the family of Joab be cursed in every generation with a man who has open sores or leprosy, or who walks on crutches, or dies by the sword, or begs for food. So Joab and his brothers, Abishai, killed Abner because Abner had killed their brother Asahel in the battle of Gibeon. That was like... David mourns Abner's death. Then David said to Joab and all those who were with him, "Tear your clothes and put on burlap. Mourn for Abner." And King David himself walked behind the procession to the grave. They buried Abner in Hebron, and the king and all the people wept at his graveside. Then the king sang this funeral song for Abner. Should Abner have died as fools die? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not chained. No, you were murdered, the victim of a wicked plot. All the people wept again for Abner. David had refused to eat anything on the day of the funeral, and now everyone begged him to eat. But David had made a vow, saying, "May God strike me and even kill me if I eat anything before sundown." This pleased the people very much. In fact, everything the king did pleased them. So everyone in Judah and all Israel understood that David was not responsible for Abner's murder. Then King David said to the officials, "Don't you realize that a great commander has fallen today in Israel? And even though I am the anointed king, these two sons of Zeruiah, Joab, and Abishai, are too strong for me to control. So may the Lord repay these evil men for their evil deeds." A psalm of the descendants of Korah. I feel like that's for well apt place, because Korah, he was rebellious against Moses and Aaron. And I will say that Joab and Abishai were rebellious against King David, because they know that David sent him away in peace and safety, and now he's like, they plotted to kill this man using David's name. Come back, David needs you, blah blah blah. On a holy mountain stands the city founded on the holy mountain stands the city founded by the Lord. On the holy mountain stands the city founded by the Lord. He loves the city of Jerusalem more than any other city in Israel. O city of God, what glorious things are said of you. I will count Egypt and Babylon among those who know me. Also Philistia and Tyre, and even distant Ethiopia, they have all become citizens of Jerusalem. Regarding Jerusalem, it will be said, everyone enjoys the rights of citizenship there, and the Most High will personally bless this city. When the Lord registers the nations, he will say, they have all become citizens of Jerusalem. The people will play flutes and sing, the source of my life springs from Jerusalem. And that is that. The way they took revenge for this man, for their brother's death, potentially leads to more wars and more younger brothers having to die. Like, they couldn't even hold their peace until more peace throughout the land was acquired. They needed revenge that instant. The thirst for it was that strong. But even then, like, you took your brother was at war, and you let your brother roam freely, chasing after this man who was fully capable of killing him, and he did so. Why was your brother chasing after him alone? Like, where were the people who were to help him with this man, Abner? The thing is, I liked Abner. He seemed like a godly man. Oh, it's just senseless. A lot of senseless bullshit. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a lot of senseless bullshit. But that's what happens when you're fighting for the throne, right? It's like people get caught up in all of that. There would be no fighting for the throne if they didn't ask for a king. Like, no one would be around to fight for it. So the lives lost in these battles. It's like people have more grace for human evil than they do for godly is retribution. Is that the word I'm looking for? Like, if this number of people died because God was angry with them, there'd be a fear, there'd be a, like, distancing, but this number of people dying because two kings are fighting for the throne, there's like kings will be kings. Like, there's a brush off of that because there's a human understanding. They understand it. They can grasp the concept deeper. But they can't grasp the concept of an angry God appeasing his anger, or not even the discipline of an angry God. It's strange. I still think that, like, we have way too much grace for human evil than anything else. And on that, I'm gonna go. Bye bye.